Hello, this is Omar Shano here, jazz violinist from Israel, and I'm here to work on jazz violin exercises that will make your brain fart. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for friends to join in. Hello Maya, hello Robert. I'm welcoming everyone with mandalas, beautiful mandalas, and some elevator music, which is actually great. Yeah, please ask me any questions, leave any questions in the comments, any subject you'd like me to go over, talk about, share my opinion on, show you tricks on how to work on different techniques in improvisation or violin. Today I think we're gonna start off with a few rhythmic exercises. Shalom Meital, Neshama. We'll start off with a few rhythmic exercises, I think, that involve singing, like I always like to sing every day and night, and we'll probably go over some improvisation exercises where I'm actually gonna play to a backing track and try some different concepts of improvisation, and obviously react to whatever you guys want to hear or see. If you have any questions along the way, some things you'd like to see how I work on, then you're very welcome to leave the question in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. We'll wait a couple of more minutes. Hello, Daniel, Black Toxins. Hello, David, my friend David or David. So today I was kind of bummed out. Not the best day for me or for the world. So I think I just like to something I'm trying to do every weekend. I try to do so. It doesn't always work, but it usually is something I do when I just feel too confused or too brought down by life or things happening in life. So I just try to turn off the music. I just try to think about some stuff that I'm grateful for. I think what I like to say thanks for today is saying thanks that I got into guitar when I was younger, that I got into playing guitar, and that exposed me to the world of improvisation, that exposed me to the music of Jimi Hendrix, that influenced me a lot, and that led me to improvisation and jazz. And improvisation is such a big part of my life, also in music, but not solely in music. I like to see how I combine improvisation in all aspects of life. So that's one thing I'm grateful for, is improvisation. Let me take off this funny. Do you like this filter? Actually, it's kind of relaxing. Hello, Aaron. Meital, for you I'm always single. Maya. Okay, so Maya asks, how do you work on modal tunes? What's your way to find ideas and make it interesting? Okay, so I will talk about it later. I hope you could stay all the way to the end, or just later. Because I'll be happy to talk about it and work on it, but I first want to address the rhythmic exercises, which are in more like warming up exercises and getting into the music. Um, okay, so let's start. Oh, another thing, guys, please, if you're tuning in, I would be happy if you just leave a comment saying hi or leaving a like. That would really help me share this lesson with more people, this practice session. So I'd be happy if more people are being able to get exposed to it and have the opportunity to learn too. So if you could hit the like button or share or leave a comment, that just the algorithm likes it. Algorithm like it. That helps me share this with more people. Thank you very much. So let's start with rhythmic exercises. So I want to go back to what I did last week for whoever you guys that was here last week. I did an exercise that is basically addressing more of what I called rhythmic responsibility, and it's an exercise that we work on being more in control of bigger beats. So one very important aspect of practicing with metronome is to get used to working with a metronome on fewer beats. What happens when we work with a metronome and we basically we make the metronome hit every beat, like every quarter note, then obviously it helps progress, and at the beginning stages of dealing with rhythm you have to do that. You just need to have a metronome click every quarter note or every eighth note in medium or higher tempos. But one thing that is very important to do after a while of practicing with the metronome is you want to get to a stage where you're able to take off beats off of that metronome click and start practicing with metronome beating only on like beat one of a bar, sometimes maybe even just one click every 2 bars. This way what we're doing is we're actually oh yeah, I truly miss Brooklyn. Good to see you, man. So what's so rhythmic responsibility. So what happens when we have fewer beats that have a very large distance between them, then we kind of have to really internalize and be very, very attentive to each click of the metronome. And slowly what happens is that we're able to expand the time in which our brain is able to associate 2 beats as one entity. And because this is what happens in rhythm, right? We have beats that are happening in equal points in time in a range that is small enough for our brain to associate it as an entity, as a symmetrical entity, and associate each beat, right? So we hear a click, and then we hear another click, and because our brain is able to categorize it, we can predict when is the next beat gonna come. When we start stretching that and taking each beat farther away, it's harder for our brain to associate and find the symmetry between those 2 beats. So like if I do a snap right now, and then I'm gonna do another snap tomorrow, and then I'm not gonna do another snap and 2 days later, there's probably no human being that would be able to associate that as a part of a rhythm that I'm counting, even if it would be in the exactly same hour of the day and another person would be a witness to that sound. He wouldn't be able to recognize and associate those beats into a rhythm because it's too far away. Our brain is not able to make these kind of connections. But at least at least sound wise. But when we put clicks closer to each other, we can see a pattern and we can categorize it, and this is how we can feel rhythm. So what we want to do is stretch a little bit, the slowly stretch the distance between each beat, so we enhance our ability and our brain's ability to associate two far beats as one thing and being able to feel that. So that takes focus and practice, but it also takes some responsibility. And the more you do it, you'll see that many times keeping rhythm is not necessarily about, it's not just an ability that you have or you're not. Is many times is just is keeping the focus strong enough so you know when the next beat is coming, and it's almost a matter of responsibility. That's how I feel like when I practice that, or also with intonation. I feel when I practice that, it's sometimes I just I let my mind drift away, and that's when I miss the beat. But if you really keep that focus and really keep that attentiveness and relaxation in your body, then you're able to communicate with that beat, and you're able to keep the responsibility of keeping your internal rhythm. Okay, so that was a lot of talking. So here's a 30 BPM metronome. That's bossa nova music, actually. Here's the 30 BPM metronome. Okay, are you hearing it well? Please let me know if you'd like me to raise the volume, if you hear it loud and clear enough. It's kind of loud. Okay. So some of you may be able, hello John, some of you may be able to work with that tempo, but if you're not, try to practice a little faster rhythm. So I think most musicians would be able to start on 40, and then as you progress with it and you practice more, you're able to go down to 40. And I know drummers and or musicians that have practiced it a lot, and just very proficient musicians that are able to play to a metronome in 15 BPM or 10 BPM, crazy stuff. So 30 for me is a place where I feel kind of comfortable in. So first let's just try and see if we're able to keep the beat along with that metronome, not even with the instrument, just snapping along. So we always want to give some time to listen to that click and just let it sink. Okay, so what we did last week is an exercise coming from Indian classical music school, which was very interesting. So we did an exercise of doing how's it called? Rhythmic modulation. Yeah, forgot the term. I think it's rhythmic modulation. Basically, what we're trying to do is play different time signatures along to the same click, the same beat. So we have each click. Let's say each click is a bar, basically. So we're trying to divide it into. First, we're just trying to snap each click. Then we're trying to divide it into two. Then divide this time frame into 3, then divide it to 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then go down from there. We can also go farther, obviously. You can try and divide it into 9 parts, 10, go crazy with it. But I was just trying to go from 1 to 8 and going back. First, just singing or snapping or clapping it, because we always want to practice new musical skills that we're working on. We always want to sing them first or do something with our body with them before we pick up the instrument, especially violin, because violin is freaking hard. And if you're trying to learn a new skill while playing the violin, it's a waste of time, in my opinion. You just want to see that you're able to comprehend the exercise or comprehend the musical skill, just in your head, just in your body. You want to see if you're comprehending it, internalizing it, and only then translate it to the instrument, whatever instrument you're playing. So we first just sang it, or tapped it, and then I was trying to do that with the violin. What I want to do now is another fun thing that I used to do sometimes with my buddies in the apartment where I used to live in Brooklyn, before I ran away because of the pandemic. So I used to live with 3 other Israeli jazz musicians who also went to the New School of Jazz with me. We had a really fun apartment. We did a lot of hummus hangs and hummus parties and everything hummus. We just ate hummus all day long. That's not true, but we did a lot of hummus hangs, and we brought musicians over, and we would jam until late at night, and good times. So sometimes we would sit in the living room and do this exercise. So you put on a metronome, and then you just try and improvise rhythmic phrases to a very slow metronome. So that's a great example of what I mean by internalizing the skill before you try to do that with the instrument. So let's see how it feels to just improvise by voice to that click, and see if we feel comfortable with that. And once we feel comfortable with that, we can try and do that with the violin. All right. Down, ti da down, da 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 down, da 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 down, da ti da 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 da, da 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 tiki da da tiki da 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 tiki da 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 tiki da tiki boom ah da tiki tiki da 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 tiki tiki da 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 tiki da tiki tiki da tiki tik tak tak da tiki 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 anyway, get crazy with it. So now I see that I feel pretty comfortable with just improvising with voice over this beat, and you can improvise however you want. You can play Latin rhythms, you can play trap rhythms, you can play rock and roll rhythms, you can play swing, whatever. Just produce sounds with your voice, and try to follow the metronome, and try to snap each time there's a click coming. Another thing interesting I was trying to do the other day is trying to read to the metronome. Now that's another great exercise, I think, for developing coordination and being able to have like attention division, or distribution. I don't know how you would say that in English, but what I mean is like being able to do one task while focusing on the beat. And this is an experience that we keep experiencing when we're playing with people, right? Because when we're improvising or playing our instrument, we get so caught up with what we're doing. We get so focused in our sound and our technique and whatever we're doing. And listening to the rest of the band is basically it's hard. It's a skill of coordination, and not everyone are able to do that. And the best musicians are the musicians that are able to do that. They're able to communicate with their band members while they're also able to give some attention to what they're doing on the instrument. But it is a skill that we want to develop, to have that attention division, and being able to perform one task while still keeping one ear to what's happening around me. So in our case, that would be, let me take, I'll grab a book and read from it, and you guys, and then I'll try to follow the metronome. So you guys are able to see if I'm able to keep playing with the band. Let's find a nice book. Okay. Here's an interesting book I started reading a while ago. It's called Lion Songs. It's about an amazing Chimurenga artist, which is Zimbabwean music. It's Zimbabwean protest music, developed mainly by this guy Thomas Mafumo. This is a great book by a friend of mine called Banim Eyre from New York. So describes his story, his biography in Zimbabwe, in Harare, and then moving to the United States later on, basically escaping the reign of Mugabe that didn't like Mafumo for his political ideas. So let's start reading it. Let's see if I can follow the metronome as I do that. Okay. Preamble. Chimurenga Nights. When are you leaving? A patron at the 7 Miles Hotel. The Rixie cab driver wanted 130 Zimbabwe dollars, just over $10 US. That seemed high for a trip from downtown Harare to the 7 Miles Hotel, but if the meter was rigged, there was nothing to do about it. As I paid and got out, 2 women, laughing and arguing in tipsy Shona, edged in to take my place in the Beetle-like Renault 4, which pulled out of the crowd parking lot. Whoo! And headed back to town. In the midnight warmth, patrons moved in and out of the hotel's sworn wooden entryway, and the air reverberated with the pulse of a live band. Metallic thrumming from electrified mbira rebounded off walls and washed over flow rooftops as notes, planked in isolation and clustered like iron raindrops. These handheld African instruments made of wooden slabs and iron tongues spoke power. Mbira could heal sickness. In ceremonies, they could rouse spirits of the dead to possess the living. Here, fed through guitar amplifiers, they clanged like hammers on anvils, infusing the air with righteous din. Blasts of bass guitar drove a lashing rhythm rooted in heartbeat, kick drum, and restlessly chattering hi-hat. An electric guitar crested through with a bright cry, then submerged again. A low-pitched voice boomed within the storm, whispering thunder. Only one band in the world sound like this. Thomas Mafumo and the Blacks Unlimited. That was hard. Great book. Really recommend it. So that's a fun exercise, you know. Just try to read and follow the metronome at the same time. And I don't know if you saw, I felt like I was becoming more and more comfortable with it. Okay, and I can really sense when I'm about to lose the beat and when I'm gonna able to hit it. Like I many times I feel like I know that even before the beat arrives, because I know if I was keeping my rhythmic responsibility and was keeping my ears to the metronome while I'm reading, and when did I became unaware of the metronome and couldn't recall the last beat. It's like being rhythmically responsible is about being have a very clear memory of when was the last beat you heard, uh, and by really being attentive to that and remembering when was the last beat, you anticipate when is the next beat. um, okay, so now let's take the instrument. Hello Jefferson. um, let's take the instrument and let's try to improvise to that click. Let's try. Well, I'll just start. We'll just start with one note, okay? Let's just try take one note and improvise some rhythms with it to the click, and then afterwards, I think I'm gonna take some jazz standard and try to improvise over it along to the beat. And I won't tell you what standard I'm improvising over, and let's see if you guys are able to guess the tune number 900,251.3. That would be the game later on. Mm. Okay, so let's take some jazz standard, and let's see who of you guys are able to guess which standard I'm improvising to. Oh man, table. So I'm improvising over a jazz standard. So if you guys are able, I don't think anyone guessed it yet. So yeah, so if anyone is able to guess what standard I'm improvising on, comment, and you'll win 5 shekels, which doesn't worth much. That's all I have to give. Okay, metronome on 30 BPM. No one guessed it yet? Oh. Okay, someone guessed it at the end, at least. Man, I got a freaking headache of this metronome. Hey, Katarina. Thank you for tuning in. And Aaron, thank you guys. Did anyone guess the tune? So that was what it is, this thing called love. I don't know if I played very clearly. Sometimes I was in the changes, many times I wasn't really in the changes. I was just messing with them. But yeah, that was what is the thing called love. That was the standard that I was thinking about. Shalom Kfir. Okay, so Maya, I know you're still here, so I'm gonna address what you asked. So Maya Maharta, who's an awesome violinist too, so you should check her out, guys. She's over here. I don't know if you can see the list of viewers or not, but check her music on Spotify. She has an awesome avant-garde jazz band called Firvar, right? That's the name of the band, I'm pretty sure. So go check it out on Spotify. So Maya asked for tips to working on modal tunes. So modal tunes, for whomever of you, if you don't know, when we speak about modal jazz, it usually refers to jazz music that is composed usually out of like two harmonic centers, maybe just like one chord or two chords that are moving between each other, and yeah, and basically we generally improvise with using modes. These are harmonies that are just derived, or like a set of chords that is usually derived out of a specific one of the modes of the major scale, and we usually use that mode to improvise over this kind of tune. So like famous jazz standards that are considered modal jazz would be So What by Miles Davis, or Impressions by John Coltrane. Is it John Coltrane's? I think it's John Coltrane's. So like a lot of the late jazz, basically like the jazz music from the 60s, the 70s, that's basically when this big wave of modal jazz came about. So we have artists like Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock. These cats used to play this music a lot. So what can we do in a situation where we have one chord or two chords to move between them? So it is hard to make an improvisation exciting or interesting with that type of very narrow harmony. Like usually when we have a jazz standard, we have a lot of chord changes that are happening. So we don't really have to play much or be too creative in order to have a lot of motion in our solos, because there's motion in the harmony. So as long as we're playing, as long as we're emphasizing the harmony in our playing the changes through our melodies, then we have a pretty cool solo. What happens when you have like one chord in one mode that could apply to it? How can you create an interesting solo with that? So what I like to do is basically add harmony. So I think I might have spoken about it during last class or like last session, or the session before that. I think I talked about no, sorry, that was probably with a student of mine. We talked about it. So the point is, we have the song, the tune gives us certain harmony, but the fact that the tune gives us certain harmony doesn't mean that we have to always express that particular harmony. We can also add harmonies of our own, as long as we make sure that the points of resolution and basically the points of emphasized beats or emphasized rhythm, harmonic rhythm changes, we want to make sure that these points are true to the source, are true to the actual harmony of the whatever tune we're playing. But what happens in between, we can do a lot of things in between, and we can create that harmonic motion within our playing. And just think of, like, let's say you have one chord, you can think of two chords that you're moving in, you're thinking about in how you build your melodic lines, and that creates great sense of motion and direction in your music. And it also gives you a bigger range of language that you can apply over that one chord. So you can start by just playing the mode, but then you can add some other harmony. So here's a fun example that I like to show my students. This is a guitar. It's an instrument that has 6 strings, not just 4. 6 strings. There's a lot of strings to work with, but it's actually easier than violin. I don't know if you can see here. Okay, so this fun example. I'm gonna play a blues. I hope you guys know the form of the blues. You have familiarity with it, and you have it in your ear. If you have it in your ear, you're gonna enjoy this example. What I'm doing is, okay, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm doing. I'm just gonna play a blues, a specific blues, okay? And let's see if you guys are able to figure out what is the concept or pattern or non-pattern. What am I applying in this blues? You're welcome to write it down for you if you have an idea. Okay, so I'm doing blues in A, okay, in A major, just because it's easy for me to play that over here. Oh, let's take it. Ow. Sorry. Really peak. Okay, so blues in A major. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. sorry, that was lame. One more bar. One more chorus. Okay? So that was a blues. Do you know what was special about that blues? Well, it's taking some time. And there's probably delay in how fast I'm getting your responses anyway. So let me just tell you. So what I did here basically is playing the main changes of the blues. Like I was playing the 1 chord when it was time. I was playing the 4 chord when it was time to play the 4 chord, and I was playing the 5th chord when it was time to play the 5th chord. The thing is that in between these chords, I did whatever the heck I wanted. That was the concept. That between the main points of resolution, I did whatever the heck I want. And this is just a nice example to show how the effect of tension and release, how powerful it is. That you can play whatever the heck you want in the points of tension, as long as you resolve it and in the points where the yeah. So now I see your response, Aaron. So it was a blues progression with some added chord like Blues for Alice. Yeah, only that Blues for Alice actually has some thought behind it. But you know, similar to that, like why are all these different chords like different 2/5s when you add so many like 2/5 progressions to unrelated keys? Like how does that work? And it mostly relies on the idea of tension and release, that as long as you resolve the tension at the important points, the points of resolution where we have a chord that changes or we have a downbeat, then you can play whatever you want in between, and as long as you're leading to that resolution, it will sound really cool. And this is a concept that people use and implement when they're playing out, what we call playing out. So how do I express that in modal music? So let me put on a backing track for like let's say impressions. Yes, it is by John Coltrane. Ow! Okay, are you able to hear the backing track well enough? Yeah, so generally what I would do, cool. So the basic thing I would do here is I have a D minor chord, and then I have an E flat minor chord, right? So we have A part, you could say it's like A, B, A, so you have two A's that are D, and then the B part is E flat minor, and we're back to the A, which is the A part, which is D minor. So the most like natural thing that a musician will do here is play a Dorian mode over each of these chords, right? So D Dorian. And then we have E flat minor, so we would play E flat Dorian. Now, how do I apply this idea of coming up with my own harmony? So I just come up with a harmony like of just 2 chords for starts. Let's say D minor, D to E major. Okay, that's an interesting sound. So the E major would kind of give us, well, it would also majorize that D minor, and it would also give us a flat 5 or sharp 11 sound. It will give us the 13th sound. It'll give us a bunch of sounds, but we don't care because we're just messing around. We're testing sounds. Like, the theory behind it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, as long as you keep the concept of tension and release. So I'm just gonna move on the D chord, the D minor chord part. I'm just gonna move my melodic lines between D to E major and see how it sounds. Let's take it a little slower. I have to tune, I'm sorry. I'll go back to D. So same thing on the E flat. I would move between E flat and a chord that is a whole step above it, which would be F. So E flat minor and F. Juanito! So that's an idea of how I'm moving between harmonies that I come up with my own. Like, this E has nothing to do with this chord progression, but I just added there. It has an interesting sound, which is not consonant or related or legal to play over D minor allegedly. But since I'm always relying on the idea of creating tension and then resolving it at the right spot, then it doesn't really matter what I play. We can do that. We can try out different. Let's try and move between a chord to the diminished chord of the same root. That's also an interesting sound. So D, playing D minor, then playing D diminished. Love you, Juanito. Miss you. Um, so yeah, that was just me thinking about chord and then the diminished chord from the same root. Okay, so now let's take this idea farther. I'm really like giving you away all of my secrets right now. Luckily, only 6 people are watching it, so yeah. So this is a main thing of how I think about improvisation. Is keeping that feel of tension and release, and creating harmonic movement in my playing, not deriving it from the harmony of the song, but just creating that harmony myself in my head, and then applying it to the instrument. Okay, so let's try and take this farther, and just play with the idea of tension and release. So right now I'm gonna improvise very freely. I'm gonna improvise in the harmony. Of course, I'm happy to share. Thank you for listening. So I'm gonna think about the chord that is played, and then I'm just gonna think about stepping out of that chord, okay? I'm not necessarily gonna think about a repeating pattern that I do. I'm just gonna mess around and try not to constrict myself to particular harmony that I think about, but just think more vaguely about release, tension, and release, and resolving back to release when it's the right time. So was that clear? Like that, like what I did right now? I hope that was clear. It was much freer approach to what I explained earlier. I was just trying to let myself loose, and just always keep attentive to what I'm playing, and making sure that when I go out on a walk somewhere else, I always come back to the trail when it's the right time. So I hope that answered your question, Maya. I hope you got some ideas for improvising over your awesome tunes with that. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll do this again next Saturday, and I think I'll do that in the same hour, probably 2 p.m. New York time, 9 p.m. Israel time, and I believe that's probably 8 p.m. Central Europe, I think, like Germany, Netherlands. I don't know where are people tuning in from, but so yeah, thank you for tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions. You're welcome to hit me up. Also, some news. On Monday, I'm releasing a new track. I'm releasing a new version of Go Find a Place of Peace, which I actually recorded with my amazing friend here, Juan, who's just an incredible guitar player that I got to work with and play with in New York back when I was there. So check Juan out. He has amazing music. Juilliard student. But I'm releasing a new version of it that I recorded now in Israel. So Monday it will be released on all streaming platforms. So I'd be very happy if you go check that out. And if you follow me on Spotify and save that track, that would help me share this music with more people. And then the week after, on Monday, I will, of course, Katarina, my pleasure. The week after, I will share the video. I will release the video of that track of Go Find a Place of Peace, which I hope you will enjoy too. And I have a playlist. If you guys, if any of you didn't get to check it out, I have a playlist that I curated on Spotify called Modern Jazz Violin. So you can check out a bunch of other amazing jazz violinists that are happening today. So go check that out and save that too. And that's it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for asking questions. And I hope I'll see you guys next weekend. And you're welcome to send me any questions along the week, any like subject you'd like me to go over. Like I said earlier, I'm basically giving away all of my knowledge. So like whatever you want to ask, and if it's a subject that I'm able to go over in class, like in an hour session, then I will. And that's it. Have a good night. Buenas noches. Gute Nacht. Laila Tov. What language did I miss? Let's finish with some elevator music. Thank you for tuning in.